Salve rapaziada do canal do Brandinho, sejam bem-vindos, começando um videozão aqui pra vocês e hoje temos o Monster Talks #1 do Brandinho. Vocês já viram o Monster Talks lá no canal do Pacho, tem o Monster Talks lá no canal do Gabriel e agora vocês estão vendo aqui o Monster Talks no canal do Brandinho e já começamos com o pé direito, né? Estamos aqui com nada mais nada menos que New Hill. Coach, thank you so much for coming here and do this video with us. And today, everybody in Brazil know you're a fucking amazing coach, one of the best in the world, but they don't know who is New Hill. Where New Hill come from?
Okay, so
What New Hill eat?
well, I'm eating very good while I'm here. I can assure you, I'm eating like a king. Living obviously with Raphael and his beautiful wife Karen. I've been looked after incredibly well. I'm very blessed to be here in their personal space and time. I'm 54 years of age. I was born in March 1969 from Wales in a small seaside village in a place called Tenby.
Tenby.
Yeah, which is a very small seaside village.
Right.
Only about 6,000 to 9,000 people in the winter,
Right.
and over 100,000 people in the summer because it's a very beautiful tourist destination.
Right.
And I've been in the industry now for 35 years.
35 years?
Yes, so I started bodybuilding when I was 19 years of age. Started obviously as a junior bodybuilder and progressed through the weight categories, and I turned pro in 2002 as a light heavyweight bodybuilder.
Right. And when do you start to train? Like, why?
Well, when I grew up, I grew up amongst obviously kind of sport and individuals. I came from a very successful swimming career as an amateur swimmer. But I grew up with different individuals and different friends at obviously different times. And one of my very closest friends was very, very muscular, incredibly muscular, 1 year younger than me. And I can distinctly remember when I was young, I felt kind of like very small and intimidated next to him in the summer when he had his vest on and his shorts because of his muscularity. He wasn't sporting at all, didn't excel in any sport, didn't really have any interest in sport. So I was the sports person who excelled in sport. But I left school before him because he was 1 year younger than me. And he joined the army. And then about 4 years later, I just happened to meet him whilst he was home from the army on leave. So he was visiting his parents for maybe a few weeks. And I bumped into Philip. And we obviously started talking, and he said, I'm going to the gym. And I said, you're going to the gym? He said, yeah, I'm going to the gym. I started bodybuilding. And in my head I thought, well, if he started bodybuilding, I've got to start bodybuilding because he's a big fucker. Do you know what I mean? Right? And he didn't even train, before that. So I remember getting my bike, cycling to this gym. And I can remember the very first moment walking into this gym environment because I'd never been in a gym before.
Right.
And it was a punch bag. And I used to do a little bit of boxing. And I remember hitting this punch bag and it was full of sand. And I honestly thought I nearly broke my wrist. It was like a bad experience for me. Okay. But to progress past that point, about 2 weeks later, there was a bodybuilding show, which was about 30 miles away. Right. And Philip, my friend who was from the army, knew about this bodybuilding show and said, hey, I want to go to this bodybuilding show. But he couldn't drive. He said, will you take me? And I said, okay. And I just didn't have any interest really about what the show was going to be like. Right. I just went because Philip asked me to drive him. And I walked in.
But at this time, did you know about bodybuilding?
No, because when we started training at that time, only for like 2 weeks I'd been training at that point, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just doing what Philip was doing. Right. Understand? And we trained arms nearly every day. So it just goes to show we had no idea what we were doing. And then I go to the show and I was just like, oh my God. And I couldn't believe that when I got there, the first category was juniors. Right. The juniors was under 21 men. These guys were godly. The muscularity and the development of their physiques was just incredible. And from that moment, it was like, I want to do the same as that shit. Do you understand? I want to look like that. And then I competed only after training 12 weeks in my first ever show.
After 12
weeks, I had really no muscle. I weighed 127 pounds. And it was a show called Stars of Tomorrow. So the event was a show called Stars of Tomorrow. And I remember it was in a venue called the Aberavon Hotel. And there was either 12 or 16 people in my class. And I came third. And I think the only reason I came third is because I was lean compared to a lot of the athletes, you know. I didn't like it on stage. I didn't like being center attention. But what I liked is the kind of process. And then from that moment on, obviously, I became more aware of training. And then I did my second show maybe 6-9 months later. I didn't diet at all. And I was fat bastard. And I can remember being backstage thinking, I'm big, taking my top off, thinking I'm big. And then these guys stood next to me, took their clothes off, started pumping up, and these guys were incredible. And I was thinking in my mind, I can't compete, I can't stand next to these guys. And I went on stage, and I can't remember how many people were in the show. There was either 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. I came second from last. And I remember saying to myself, I am never going to step on stage again unless I diet and understand what I need to do to look better. And from then, I had a very successful amateur career, and then obviously went on to be a professional.
And when you turned pro?
2002.
2002 in Bridge?
I won an event called the Open Wales, which was an incredibly hard show to win. Back then, there was only 2 pros a year, 2 shows. I would win the overall British. So to win your pro card, the British Championships, you had to win your weight class. You compete against all the other weight class winners, and the overall winner would win a pro card. Or you compete and win the Open Wales. Again, there was no weight category. But we used to have world champions from different countries traveling in, European champions, British champions. To get the pro card. They would all travel to do this show. There was no weight category. It was like one winner, that's it. And I won that in 2002. And, it was obviously a very surreal feeling. But at the time, it wasn't the pro card I was interested in. It was actually the prize money. I had a big goal in my head of what I wanted to do in 2002 as an athlete. And then I went on to compete in the 2002 British Grand Prix in Wembley in London in the UK. And bodybuilding, it's funny because I'm here now. It's the 27th of June here. And I still had that love and that passion and that desire for bodybuilding as I did all those years ago when I was 19 years of age. And it's people like yourself which excite me, because bodybuilding is about progress. And bodybuilding is about vision, and bodybuilding is about mindset and application and no bullshit excuses. So when I had the opportunity of working with people like you who have this passion and this desire to further themselves, I suppose to me it brings the best part of me out as a coach.
That's good. And before bodybuilding, used to be a mechanic?
Before bodybuilding? Well, actually, during bodybuilding, I was a mechanic. I served my time as a technician. I spent 16 years as a motor vehicle technician, which is a mechanic. And at the same time, I was also working full-time in a nightclub on the door as well. So I was working maybe 60 to 80 hours a week, because I would be working 9 to 5. Well, actually 8:30 until 5 o'clock in the garage. And then in a nightclub, I'd be working from 9 p.m. until 2 p.m. 9 p.m. until 2 a.m. By the time we get everybody out of the club, and by the time I get home, it could be 3 a.m. in the morning. So I'd be going to bed at 3 a.m., having to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning. And I did this for 14 years. 14 years. So I was working full-time as a mechanic, and I was working full-time in a nightclub. However, the nightclub 8 months a year was only open on a Friday and Saturday night. But in the summer months, which is 4 months of the year, it would be open 6 nights a week. So I would be working anywhere between 6 and 4 nights in the nightclub. I would
Every
never
week.
work less than 4 nights. And all the bodybuilding shows, they were all summertime.
Right.
So I would
Summertime.
so I was working crazy hours.
Oh my gosh.
So when I hear people saying, I'm tired, I can't work, I want to be a bodybuilder, it's like, you have no idea. You know, people have no idea of the sacrifices, not just myself.
Yeah.
But if you look at somebody like Ronnie Coleman was a full-time policeman for many, 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 many years, even being a multi-Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if I was in a different financial position, I would have carried on working all those hours, because I wouldn't have.
Right.
But I did what I needed to do to provide for my family and provide the opportunities in life, you know, to live the life that I felt my family and I wanted. And you know, if you want something in life, you have to work for it, you know. And I was never given anything. My parents had no money. So in order for me to financially be able to live the bodybuilding lifestyle and pay my bills and you know, and pay my mortgage and things, you know, I had to work. There was no option. And I'm glad I did it the way that I did it. I'm glad that I proved to myself that that if you want something in life, you have to do the things that maybe sometimes you don't want to do to become, you know, a better individual or have a better life or progress in life.
Yeah. How old was you when you start to work?
Mate,
Really young?
it was really young, because I come from a poor family,
Right.
right? So we had very little. So I had my first job when I was about 9 years of age, 9 or 10. I had a paper round
Right.
on a Sunday. So I used to go and sell papers to the local people on a Sunday.
Right.
And then when I was about 11, I used to work in a dairy. A dairy is where they do all the milk.
Right.
I used to work a Saturday morning in the dairy, Sunday morning paper round. Maybe when I was 12, 13, I worked on a Saturday in the dairy and on the Sunday.
Right.
And then when I was 16, I started my apprenticeship. I worked Saturday morning, Sunday morning in the dairy, and then on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Right.
I worked as a mechanic.
Right.
When I was 19, I was still doing the dairy on a Saturday and Sunday. I was still, you know, serving my time as a mechanic, but I also started working in the nightclub maybe 6 months after I started bodybuilding. When I started in the nightclub, I stopped my dairy on Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
So when I was about 19 and a half, or nearly 20, I was working full-time, obviously, mechanic, and full-time in the nightclub. And I did that. I had those both jobs, as I said, 16 years as a technician, 14 years, you know, working on the door as a doorman as well.
Did you work as a technician almost your whole career?
As a bodybuilder, yes, throughout all of my bodybuilding, the whole time, because what happened in 2002, I turned pro, and it, you know, it's a sad situation, because as an athlete, I had that magic to build muscle tissue,
Right.
and I worked incredibly hard on symmetry and balance and conditioning. So those things were something which were incredibly, you know, I had to work hard for those. The building muscle was relatively easy as long as I was consistent and I was methodical. Okay,
Right.
you know, getting condition was about me learning what works in my body with diet. Building symmetry was obviously being selective on where to focus my energy in the
Right.
gym, etc. Work on my weaker muscle groups. I didn't have to put so much work and emphasis into my stronger muscle groups. But unfortunately, when I was born with a very, very severe knee defect.
Right.
So instead of my knee doing this, the joint, it used to do this.
Right.
So I had a lot of bone-to-bone contact at a very young age. I was an international swimmer from the age of about 7 or 8 to the age of 15. And my main stroke was breaststroke.
Right.
It's completely unnatural. It goes through your hips and knees. So instead of my knee doing this, it was doing. So over a long period of time, I had bone-to-bone contact. So in 2002, when I won my pro card, it was very difficult for me to train properly, because there was a lot of exercises which were causing a lot of pain, and the quality of my life was bad.
Right.
Yeah. So when I turned pro in 2002, there was no 202 class, there was
Right.
no 212 class, there was no classic, there was no men's physique, it was just open class
Open
bodybuilding.
class.
And I knew in my heart that I had the ability to be a very competitive open class bodybuilder. But it would take 2 to 3 years to put the muscle on, which was fine. But every pound of muscle I put on, my knee would be worse and worse. So I made the decision to step away from bodybuilding in 2003, and it was a very, very hard decision for me. It was, it kind of broke my heart.
Right.
But I'm one of these people, I have to do 100% or nothing. Looking back, I wish that I just said, okay, I will never compete again, and I'm just gonna enjoy my training.
Right.
Maybe lose 20, 30 pounds, stay very, very lean, and enjoy my training, because if I lost that extra weight and lost some muscle, there's less stress on my knee on a daily basis. But I then started a kitchen and bathroom company where I started to design and fit kitchens and bathrooms.
Right.
And that became a really big passion for me for about 8 years. I started coaching when I was about 21, 22 years of age.
Really?
Yes. Because a lot of people would notice my development and say, hey, what do you do? So I never charged people. I never charged to people to help them. I was happy to help them where I could. And then what happened is I met Flex in 2003. And before Flex, I had a lot of success as a coach. But again, I never ever charged my services. I was just happy to help. Then what happened is that as Flex's career started to develop, so a lot more international exposure came onto me. And I can remember Flex saying, hey, Neil, you need to be a coach. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be a coach, because I enjoy what I do, my kitchens and bathrooms. He said, you should really think about it. So then I stepped away from the kitchens and bathrooms and just full-time worked online, and worked with my clients to be a coach. And that was probably maybe 2010, 2011, maybe 2012. I don't really know. When I became a full-time professional coach, where all I did was obviously work with my clients. And now we are here, right, in June 2023.
Long time already.
A long time.
Long time. So yeah, it's good to know. When did you move to US?
I kind of moved to the US, in and out the US, probably about 7-8 years ago.
That's not too long.
No, because I kind of went over to the US and stayed in Boca Raton where Flex was. And I was coming in and out of the country, in line with my visa, because I wasn't allowed to work there, so I didn't work there at all. I was only working when I was back in the UK. So I was going in and out of the UK, in and out of the UK, in and out of the US for about 4.5 years.
Right.
And then what happened about 2.5, 3 years ago, I got my visa, and then I moved full-time there, and then started working for the first time in the US. And that was only pretty much 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago, like September this year.
Yeah.
And I now live in Vegas. Obviously, I was kind of partially living in Boca Raton for 4.5 years, and then moved to Vegas just 2.5 years ago.
When Dragon's started there. Right?
Yeah, so what happened is that, Flex spoke to me and said he was moving to Vegas and asked me would I go with him, and I was like, yeah. It appealed to me, the city appealed to me. And I've just bought a house, obviously, just over 12 months ago. I had a house built in Vegas. And I'm really enjoying my time there. But I also enjoy traveling and going to other countries and experiencing culture. And I like to spend time with my clients where I can. But of course, most importantly, I like to spend time with my partner, Alexander, and my boys, and, my friends and family. So, sometimes you have to just balance everything.
Yeah. So, tell the guys, how many countries did you live, like for years? Or
Right. Okay.
I know India.
Okay. I've traveled a fair bit. So as far as living in places, I lived in the UK for 12 weeks when I was born.
Right.
Then my parents emigrated to Australia for 4 years.
Oh, really?
I don't remember anything of it because we moved back when I was 4.
Right.
I was back in the UK from the age of 4 until maybe the age of 40, 42. Then I went to India and lived in India for 2 years. Then I was back in the UK for maybe 5 years, 6 years. Then living in the US, kind of in and out of the US for like 7.5, 8 years. Lived in Mexico for about 6 to 9 months.
Right.
And that's where I've, as far as where I've lived, I've traveled intensively, like so many different countries around the world, for extended periods of time. When I say extended, anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks.
Right.
But I've traveled to a lot of, international destinations or countries around the world.
Yeah, this is good because you know about dieting around the world too, right?
Yeah, because my online coaching business is international.
Right.
Like Rafael, I'm here with you at the moment, right? We're going to spend 2 weeks together. I probably won't see you now for another 8 to 12 weeks. Everything that we do, online.
Right.
So all of my clients and athletes around the world, they have exactly the same attention as you do.
Right.
The only difference at the moment is I'm here with you here for 2 weeks, and sometimes I do travel. I have some incredible clients and friends from Dubai, some of my closest friends now. So I spend sometimes extended periods of time there. I was there for 6 weeks last year with my clients. But I have a lot of travel coming up now, as you already know. My calendar is crazy for the next 2.5, 3 months with travel and seminar tours around the world. But everything I do is online through WhatsApp, etc. Every single one of my clients around the world has my WhatsApp number to communicate with me.
This is really good. Not many people do things like that.
And they have my personal number.
Yeah.
So even though I have 2 phones, I have a US phone, which I really don't use very much, and I have my British UK. I keep everything on that one phone, and the only reason I do that, otherwise it's not good, because what happens sometimes you get all these messages. And it's hard to disconnect because you think I've got to put my personal time here. But if I have too many phones, there's too many distractions, and it's too easy to forget. I've got to pick up my work phone. So everything goes onto my personal phone.
So Neil, let's talk about diet now, because now people know about Neil Hill, where he come from, what Neil Hill eats. Hey Neil, we told people in my last video, I think, what we've been doing at the diet, and now they are talking about it's not good for Rafael wake up at the night and eat, or no, it's really good because it's working.
Yes.
When you put something, it's different.
Yes.
Some people will like it, some people don't. But I think most of these people, 99.9%, never did it. They just talk. You know what I mean? So let's explain how this works, because I'm not a wake up and prep a meal. You know what I mean? And eat a fucking big meal. No.
It's more like a snack. So I will say that there's a lot of truth that eating in the night is not conducive and is not positive. And the reason I say that is because if we're consistently eating, that's a lot of stress on our digestive system, and our digestive system needs to sort of desensitize a little bit or de-stress itself, and obviously sleeping times are very important for that. Some people would argue the fact that waking up in the night and eating is going to disturb with sleep, and you are correct. But bodybuilders are going to wake up at least 1 to 3 times in a night to pee, yes? So you're automatically disturbing your sleep. And if you're not waking up to pee, you're not drinking enough water. And it's essential that water is very high through the process of bodybuilding for health and well-being reasons, okay? So you're already breaking into your sleep. We've put a huge amount of emphasis now into your digestive health, which wasn't in place before. So when there was a lot of inflammatory responses in your active, live, positive microbiome and live digestive bacteria was in a negative state, putting food into your digestive system or digestive tract at night would have been negative,
Right.
because it was already compromised before. Now we've got your digestive tract healthy and in a positive state now. The fact that we're putting more like a snack into you as opposed to a big, high digestible food source is only aiding your process of keeping in you in a higher sense of recovery and anabolism and supporting protein synthesis through the night. When we consume foods, obviously throughout the day, we really want to make sure our sugar balance is a level, our nitrogen retention, which is our protein, is all pretty stable. At the night time, it doesn't just drop suddenly, because our body indirectly deregulates itself to make sure it just doesn't shut down, unless somebody went to bed and they were already in a negative state of nutrient absorption. So what we're doing is we're in this position in the day where we're eating 6 meals. It goes down slowly. You wake up, you obviously have that snack, and it allows you to stay stable and then slowly elevate again when we have meal 1. If your digestive system was not in a positive state, then we wouldn't be putting that food in. But we've had no digestive issues whatsoever. You're waking up in the morning feeling, hey, I feel full in my muscle bellies. Our weight is holding stable. We're not gaining bad weight. Yes, we are going to cycle carbs. We spoke about that yesterday. Yeah. So we will be cycling carbs at different phases, not necessarily just for the manipulation of keeping body fat in a positive place, but also to upregulate insulin sensitivity so that we don't become kind of insulin compromised. So we will be carb cycling at different phases. I do want to do some videos on this on a separate day, the benefits of carb cycling,
right,
in the off season, which also relate to pre-contest time as well.
Right.
But I feel that a lot of people will sometimes form opinions and they don't actually know all of the variables and they don't understand everything. If, as I said, your digestive health was not in a good place, putting food into you in the evening time would not be conducive. But your digestive system is utilizing these food types incredibly well, processing foods. Your bowel movement is perfect. You're not walking around burping with acid reflux. You're in a very positive place at the moment as far as digestive health. But we will obviously be introducing cycling at different times.
Yeah. So now, Neil, give some advice for people. Everybody wants something, right? Everybody wants to be a big professional or have a big company, or everybody has a dream, a goal, but it's not everybody has the mindset to be there, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think is the most important thing to people putting his mindset and never forget?
I'm going to try and detract away from this question and just put it into where I am, because everybody at times will go through a negative mindset, even the most strongest individuals mentally and physically. Everybody has negative times, negative days, negative moments, times which are challenging, times where emotionally they don't feel good. But you can't rely on always everybody else. You have to sometimes flip that switch on your own. Now, growing up, I came from a poor family. Not poor compared to what we see in different countries around the world, but very poor compared to the life in general in the UK.
Right.
I was very dyslexic in school, and they did not pick up my dyslexia until I was 10 days from finishing school for the rest of my life. So school for me was frustrating because I couldn't do what I wanted to do because I couldn't express myself. So I used my frustration or my insecurities to say to myself, I know I cannot do this, this and this, but I'm going to be fucking good at this, this and this, because I know that I have no disabilities in that area.
Right.
You understand?
I understand.
Maybe they're good at many things, and maybe there are many things they're not good at. And what I say to people is when you believe in yourself and you're very true with yourself and you stop making excuses why I didn't get up in the morning, why I didn't do my cardio, why I didn't go to the gym, why I didn't apply myself. When you start using excuses and then you take responsibility and you apply yourself and then you're around a team or individuals which have positive influences on you, the ability to improve and the ability to succeed is incredibly powerful.
Right.
I feel that being around individuals which have positive outlooks and being around individuals which have proved that, hey, I was you once upon a time and now I'm here.
Yep.
You can achieve these things. That, to me, is mindset. But there are many aspects which have to contribute to mindset. You have to have a vision, you have to have a dream, you have to have a goal, you have to put yourself in the environment of being out of your comfort zone and always looking to challenge in a positive way.
Right.
You need goals which are reachable but with extreme effort. And then you obviously need that end goal to reach towards, because it's like a ladder. You can't just look at the top.
Right.
Look at step 1, 2, 3,
yeah.
4. It's a little bit like when we're in the gym and I'll say to you, right, come on, Raph, you might say to me, how many reps, coach? And I'll say, let's not think about the reps. Let's think about the first 5. And then let's think about the next 5. And then let's think about the next 3 and the next 3 and the next 2 and the next 1. They're small goals, because if I said to you 20 reps, and you pick that weight up and it feels heavy as shit and you're like, fuck, this is heavy.
Yeah.
I can't do 20 reps. Well, you can't now because you've already told yourself. So let's not think about 20.
Yeah.
Let's think about the short goals.
Right.
And those short goals in that working set can bring you beyond the point where you thought that physically was possible at the very beginning. But mindset is everything. I have an incredibly strong mindset. I don't feel it's genetical, but I use my self-belief and probably my insecurities and also a little bit of my fuck you mentality. We
Right.
can do this. And I'm sure that, you know, people which have succeeded in other fields of sport or business or other coaches, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities that we all have.
Yeah.
It's not just bodybuilding, it's sport and business and even relationships as
Yeah.
well, right?
Yeah. Viram essa mentalidade de campeão. Coach, thank you so much again for this video. It's not just for this video, but for these 2 weeks we've been spending here, and I'm so happy with this moment. We know each other better, and every day I wake up like more motivated, more wanted to be like fucking the best in the world. So let's go.
Let's go. We're gonna do this shit.
Valeu, galera. Tamo junto.